The other chapter that really stands out for me, one of my favourites, is Spooked, which gives the reader a bit of an insight into your run-in with MI5, which obviously led to a little stay in Belmarsh. Tell us a little bit about that chapter.
It was, Steve. This happened purely by accident. Well, we'll get into that maybe more in depth, but people will be familiar with the story that I was arrested in London in 1997. In May 1997, along with an old friend and associate, Arthur Sutty. We had been subject to an MI5 investigation prior to the Christmas preceding 1997, and I think the investigation started on the 12th of December. I'm not too sure about the date, but the investigation by security services in conjunction with Starcliffe Police, Metropolitan Police in London, and the subsequent investigation and surveillance, I was arrested with Arthur Sutty with the possession of machine guns, detonators, silencers, and several thousand rounds of ammunition. I was remanded to Belmarsh on that basis and was put on quite a high security because of the nature of the offence as well, Steve.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's a hell of an insight, a hell of a journey. And you also talk about the film, The Wee Man. How did that come about, Paul?
Well, how it came about was I gave Arthur Sutty a copy of the Ferris conspiracy. He loved it. Arthur Sutty then gave that to his friend called Joey Pyle. Joey Pyle was quite a prominent individual in the London circles, been about for many, many years, very well respected. And the reason why Arthur Sutty gave Joey Pyle the book was because Arthur knew that Joey Pyle knew another guy who was in that industry, music, film and entertainment industry, called Wilf Pine, who turned out to be Ozzy Osbourne's old tour manager. Been in America, very well connected in the film industry. So the book went through me to Arthur Sutty to Joey Pyle to Wilf Pine, and Wilf Pine put it all together.
Yeah.
There was when I was trying to explain that story to a friendly source in the media, the next day was a fucking half-page headline: Mafia funds the Wee Man. And I had to correct him because Wilf Pine has already wrote a book called The Englishman and the Mafia. And obviously, I never done a good enough job to explain who Wilf Pine was. So they ran the story and said the film's been made for the Mafia money. But it had been corrected. But Wilf is a big player, and that's how it started. I met Mike Loveday of Carnegie International, absolutely top guy. And then I was introduced to Ray Burgess.
Fantastic.
We had close associates that we never knew from North London, and Ray was happy to come on board, and that's how that started.
I guess the big question is there going to be a sequel?
The problem is, Steve, when you do a sequel, it's something in which I've never done a sequel with books, so I'm trying to explain that the books are all standalone. So there will be another movie, but it'll be a UK true crime movie that's going to involve Glasgow, Edinburgh, Newcastle, Liverpool, Manchester and London. All the key characters. It's never been done before. So that's the one that's had the funding approved, just because of the COVID restrictions just now. For the investors are overseas investors, so for them to try and come into the UK at this present time, they're getting allocated to a hotel, no of their choice, for £1,700 a week. So we're probably looking at May and June to have cleared funds to move on. Matter of fact, I spoke to Ray Burgess yesterday. He gave us an update, very positive. So it won't be a sequel, but it will be a standalone UK true crime.
The likes of Freddie Foreman and Stephen Sayers supported your book launch. How was that to team up with those guys?
Well, it's just normal. They're just great, fantastic people in their own right anyway, Steve. And it's quite a humbling experience to be invited into their home cities, to be given all the attention that's needed for your project, and hopefully I can give something back to these guys, because they were absolutely spot on. Freddie Foreman, as incidentally a really good close associate of Arthur City. Stephen Sayers, I've known Stephen for my time spent in Franklin Prison, along with Michael. I never actually met John, but when I got out and visited old Albert at the market in the Barra, his food bar in the city centre, he became the kind of the guy to go to for advice. Brilliant company, great time, and hopefully I can give something back. It was never done to get something back, Steve. It was just really nice gesture. They've opened up doors for me in Newcastle and London, and hopefully I can give something back, as I said.
You recently wrote a foreword for A Salford Heart, which is a book about a close friend of yours who's no longer with us, Paul Massey. What's your memories of him?
Paul, my first memory of Paul was I'd been in Manchester. People say that I'd left Glasgow for Manchester. Thompson had died at that time. 1993, I went down to visit a friend, Rob Carroll. The reason why I'm laughing, Rob's massive character. He features in the new movie, but the investors are looking for 5 different series of the tail of the movie. And me and Ray Burgess got our heads together and said, right, let's pick Rob Carruthers out for the Manchester scene, because it will tie in with how I met Paul Massey. And I met Paul Massey. I knew about Paul Massey before I met him, but one of the things that I remember was going to the Hacienda Club, big famous rave place back in the day. Treated very good. Same as going to Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle, Steve. When you're really good people, you get a good time. Went to the nightclub, went to Hacienda, brilliant time. Got to know Paul Massey for who I seen Paul Massey as, and we became very close friends after Rob Carruthers had actually died.
What projects are you working on at the moment, Paul?
Quite a few, Steve. There's a funny one. Well, not say a funny one. There's an individual I've met. I was down in London visiting family before COVID and during COVID, and I met a fellow Scotsman on my trail called Mark Dempster, who runs a Harley Street practice for substance abuse. And one of his clients is a guy called James Anthony Bowen, who was a homeless guy, a busker, musician in his own right, but he was homeless, got himself a bit of bad luck, sitting outside the tube station in, I think it was North London. And by this time he had rescued a cat, a ginger cat, that he called Bob, and looked after it to such an extent the cat would never leave him. And when he was busking outside these places on this particular day, there was a female author who happened to speak to him, give him some money in the cat for playing the guitar, and asked the story about him and the cat. And the story turns out to be James Bowen is homeless, the cat's homeless, and she thought that's a brilliant story. So she gave him a business card. And this story came direct for James Anthony Bowen to me 3-4 months ago, Steve. And the reason for it being is Mark Dempster is his counsellor. He's been shafted by publishers. Apparently there have been 8.8 million quid in book sales on Bob the Street Cat. There have been 3 films. James Anthony Bowen has never ever had the money that he should have got, and people are playing on the fact that he's misfortune. So what he wanted to do is address the situation. So MD wanted to do a bit of fact checking. Go and check out Bob, a street cat named Bob, and James Anthony Bowen. I never believed it, Steve, until I checked it. This guy's been all over Europe on the red carpet with the cat on his shoulder. So we're doing a docudrama and a book on that one. We're hoping to get another couple of pilot series through Jack Pepper Media that a friend of mine, Brian Anderson, has got an interest in. And I'm interested in doing one other book. I'm practically halfway through just now, Steve, for our next project, if it is a next project. Unfinished business. The business years that will focus on going straight from my release in 2002 right up to present day, and all the pitfalls and hurdles that you've got to get through, even just to get a bank account and move on. Because when you come out of prison, Steve, in 2002, anybody comes out of prison, and they want to get involved in business. They need a business account, don't they?
Yeah.
Never got one. So there was a lot of stigma attached to it, and I don't want to spoil anything for the journey, but it's a bit of a fucking roller coaster. Involves HMRC, millions of pounds, security wars, and basically it's just how to navigate all them hurdles by going straight.
Well, if you want to buy a copy of Unfinished Business, it's available from www.badboysbooks.net. Paul Ferris, thanks for your time, mate.
Steve, thank you very much. Stay safe and remain positive, mate.